నేను ನಿಮ್ದು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸರ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಎಸ್ ಸರ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ ಎಸ್ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಇದೊಂದೇ ಸರ್ ಇನ್ನೇನು ಬಳಸಿ ಎಸ್ ಸರ್ ಎಸ್ ಎಸ್ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
Thank you very much, sir, for introducing me. Good afternoon to each one of you.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Okay. First of all, let me extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Manjunath sir and Nanjud Swami sir for giving this opportunity to share few thoughts on fundamental duties under the Constitution of India. Prof, sir, this has been actually one of the topics of great relevance when you are actually dealing with the Constitution of India. You know very well that Constitution that itself is a suprema lex and lex specialis, without which it's very difficult to survive as if a human being, all in all. Especially in India, as you have already been come across with many issues and challenges, there are some unexpected events. They are resolved even today. It requires a lot of efforts to put an end some issues and challenges which are highly vitiated here and there. So therefore, understanding Constitution is not so simple. While you are understanding Constitution, first of all, you have to understand how people are living in India. That's most appropriate to understand here and there. Therefore, whatever you have defined Bharatakanda, that's all about your geographical definition. In north you have Himalaya, south, Hindu Mahasagara, you have Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea. In between them, you have had so many biological diversities. That is all about your geographical definition on Bharatakanda. My observation is very simple. Professor, you might have studied the Constitutional Law of India very well. It could start with the preamble, end with many amendments, appendices, parts, everything, all in all we have. So that is all about the system in which you have been actually running. In India, since we have come across with multiculturalism and ethnic pluralism, no matter however you might be, first of all, you have to understand how people are living over here. That's most appropriate. And moreover, if rather I would say, some people, they read Constitutional Law of India, they are not understanding. Second, they read it, they understand it, but they don't know how to interpret the Constitution of India. Last but not the least, some people, they read it, they know how to understand it, along with the continuity of interpretation. When they are sitting at the higher level, their ideologies or decisions are safe cornered. Sometimes they express on the basis of sweeping statements. So these are the challenging issues we have when it comes to the knowledge of the Constitution of India. This is one thing I must share with you at the beginning itself. If somebody is actually crying at home, then the mother should know why he is crying. That's most appropriate. And on the other hand, no matter, there are so many conflicts, whether egg is first, hen is first, plant is first, seed is first, military necessities first, humanity is first, men are first, women are first. All these queries are in fact unresolved and unexpected. So with a view to understand all in all, of course, no matter, the Kriya and Karma should be learned. What is Kriya? Kriya for yourself, Karma for others. That's most appropriate to understand rights and duties. This is what Samand has defined in his book, Jurisprudence, wherein he says, right, recognized and protected by law. So that you have to understand what is right. So how exactly right should be looked upon? On the other hand, duties. Where there is a right, there is a duty. Where there is a duty, there is a liability. This is our dual relations. One has to understand. If X happens, then one ought to happen. I mean to say, if X happens, then Y ought to happen. If X commits a crime, he should be prosecuted. This is what we have learned on the basis of the jurisprudential observations are concerned. Therefore, when you are understanding the fundamental duties under the Constitution of India, you require a lot of effort to understand. Otherwise, it's very difficult to have a look on what are the duties shouldered on citizen of this country as such. If you just look into the preamble of the Constitution of India, it starts with we the people of India. What does it mean? That caption has been derived from American Constitution, you know very well. That's why the Constitution is actually looking forward with some clarifications to overcome, especially country like India, as I have already been made here. We have had more than 135 crores of population. This is one of my hypothetical answers I'm just sharing with you. When you are closer to high temperature, high fertility will come. When you got more high fertility, then the population will be increased. When you got more population, obviously you have to face a lot of issues and challenges are concerned. You have child labor, you have problems in connection to orphans, problems in connection to environmental aspects, problems in connection to the LGBT, problems in connection to child labor. All in all, we have. Somehow, it is our duty to overcome. That's one of the major observations we have when it comes to the knowledge of duties, which are highly shouldered under part 3rd of the part 4th of the Constitution of India as such. So when you deal with fundamental rights, duties are kept in abeyance. Even under part 3rd, all fundamental rights which are guaranteed to citizen of this country are shouldered with duties kept in abeyance. On the other hand, Article 51A of the Constitution directly sharing few aspects in connection to the subject matter. What are the duties are shouldered on citizen of this country as well. This is what we are just understanding how, in what manner duties should be considered on par with the fundamental rights are concerned. I mean to say, all fundamental rights which are guaranteed under the Constitution of India are not absolute, subject to certain limitations. Subject to certain limitations in the sense that, see, I'm not living alone. I'm living with many. I should know how to behave with somebody. So that's one of the major aspects that shall be looked upon based on Kriya and Karma. kriya for yourself, karma for others. I mean to say, one was duty towards others. That is a dharma you have. If you just look into Quran, Bible, Bhagavad Gita, see, dharma is more superior than the religious fundamentalism or fanaticism as such. So therefore, one was the duty towards others shall be one of the inherent aspects of this discourse as such. So therefore, where there is a right, there is a duty. Where there is a duty, there is a liability. This is our dual relations. One has to understand, and this has come through on the basis of our own earlier history or civilization as such. Look at Greek civilization, Roman philosophies, then Indus Valley civilization, Harappa Mohenjo-daro civilization, or Mesopotamian civilization are concerned. Here, one has to understand certain dichotomies between civilization and the culture in which you are retaining. What is a civilization? What we do is our civilization. What we follow is our culture. So one has to understand. All the time you cannot say poverty is one of the major issues. Because of poverty, all these conflicts are quite common. I must share with you, poverty is one of the reasons. I agree with you. However, that's not ultimate. If you just look into Ramayana, when Shabari met Rama, she couldn't find a North Indian or South Indian food. She had just wild fruits, gave them to the people. So in this context, poverty, it is there everywhere. Even in Mahabharata, you can find Ashwatthama used to drink milk powder rather than real milk as such. So in this context, you have to understand all these parameters based on earlier history as such. Just look into the Vedas, Upanishads, Yagnavalkya Smriti, Manusmriti, Narada Smriti, Kautilya's Arthashastra. All in all, they have emphasized on duties towards the society as a whole. No matter, before the coming into force of a constitutional law for India, we were just following commentaries which were actually written by commentators. They were uncodified. However, people were following for many years based on traditions, culture, practices, rituals, or customary observations. On the basis of these factors, when you look at duties from the perspective of pre-constitutional measures, of course, even during pre-constitutional measures, people were following according to their own traditions, culture, or practices are concerned. So after having gone through the Constitution of India, as if a Suprema lex and lex specialis, Constitution that itself is a lex specialis or Suprema lex, one has to understand, without which it would be virtually impossible to live as a human being, a country like India, because we are surrounded by many religious or fanaticisms or caste system, inherent weaknesses we have. So therefore, it is one of the observations could be looked when you are actually understanding or sharing few thoughts on fundamental duties which are shouldered under the Constitution of India as such. I must share with you, when you are understanding this, peace shall also be observed. What is peace? Peace, it does not mean it is an absence of a war. Peace means presence of justice. So what kind of justice you should be expected? It could be political justice, economic justice, about social justice. So these are the things that shall also be underlined and underpinned when you are just looking forward at all these, it could be fundamental rights or, duties which are imposed under the Constitution of India as such. On the other hand, as I've already made clear, certain obligations are shouldered on you. When you are living here, I mean to say, as long as you are living in India so long, Obligations shall not be restricted in otherwise manner. Therefore, it requires a lot of drill to understand the duties are concerned. Kindly have a look on UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 29, Class 1 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, wherein it has also spoken on the duties of the people who have been actually enjoying economic rights, social rights, political rights, rights which are emphasized on the basis of solidarity. So that's why understanding our duties, even from the perspective of a rightistic way, is one of the major observations. So that has to be looked upon, and this is one of the responsibilities shouldered on the state to disseminate such kind of obligations which are shouldered under the Constitution of India as such. And you know very well, an individual is a fundamental organ of a state as such. There is a history, one has to understand it. Earlier, what had happened when Jean Bodin, who could share few aspects on the basis of his own writings, De La Republica, in his book, he says, king is actually unrestrained by any law of the land. I mean to say, king was supreme, temple was supreme, mosque was supreme, and there was no scope for protection of human rights of a human being all along. And it was actually theorized on the basis of some political thinkers, say for example, Machiavelli, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, especially Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, on the basis of their social contract theory, they exposed many things on the basis of obligations of states and obligations of individuals as well. So therefore, an individual is the fundamental organ of a state as such. So based on sovereign power, he can enjoy all civil liberties which are guaranteed by the state as such. And who is this responsibility? It is one of the responsibilities on the part of a state. You should understand certain draft articles on state responsibility for international wrongful acts, which are drafted by 5 special reporters of International Law Commission as such. And you know very well what is state responsibility. If a state violates an international obligations, then the state responsibility would prevail over the subject. So that's why I must share with you, all rights guaranteed to states and individuals are not absolute, subject to certain limitations. Limitations in the sense that duties or obligations are concerned. So that's why, and you should understand, Bible is the Constitution ensign in its preamble for people of India. The principles of justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, all these things shall also be observed while you are understanding the fundamental duties which are expressed under Article 51A of the Constitution of India. See, fundamental duties find their way into the Constitution through the controversial 42nd Amendment. You know very well. With you to understand few developments that were taken place during the 1970s. Look at the Keshavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala and Minerva Mills case, Minerva Mills Limited versus Union of India. In these cases, several steps were concluded with a view to understand or uphold the constitutional values are concerned. On the basis of these earlier factors, of course, duties are expressed. When you look at the original constitution, in the original constitution, we couldn't find duties. It was because of efforts made at the higher level. We had a 42nd Amendment 1972, based on 42nd Amendment, these duties were actually inserted into the Constitution of India. So these are the duties which are expressed under the Suprema Lex or Lex Specialis. Have a look at Article 51A of the Constitution, which talks about the Constitution. I mean to say, you have to respect its ideals and instructions, the national flag and national anthem. These are the duties are imposed on that you have to follow it. One should not defy or degrade all these ideals, institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. As you have to respect, that's your duty. As long as you are enjoying certain civil liberties under the umbrella of Constitution, so long you shall not be forgotten on duties which are imposed under the Article 51A of the Constitution of India as such. On the other hand, 51AB of this Constitution has come across with some concrete solution to cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom as such. It was because of efforts made by freedom fighters we got an independence. Otherwise, we would have been retained with colonialism. And you know very well, earlier what had happened, we had number of intricacies all along. To overcome all these intricacies, it was because of efforts made by freedom fighters, we got an independence country like India, as you know very well. And on the other hand, you have to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. Each state is a supreme in eye of law. It can pass on a legislation, amend a legislation, and repeal a legislation. Such a kind of an autonomy has already been given to a state. Look at under Article 2, paragraph 1 of UN Charter 1945, which has given full power to a state or a member country who has already been signed on the record. No matter, it could be a smaller or bigger, superpower, a major power, all are equally fitting. I mean to say, like should be treated alike, unlike should not be treated alike. The equality before law and protection of law should go hand in hand. So that's why when you are understanding right to equality, fairness should also be maintained and inspired. So that's why it is your duty to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. You have to respect the law of the land. Otherwise, you will be victimized. Therefore, this is your duty to uphold the constitutional values, constitutional conventions, constitutional ideologies, constitutional aspects. Otherwise, it's very difficult to live as a human being, country like India. And you know very well, as I want to be made it clear, earlier we had a huge natural resources, less population. Now you have huge population, less natural resources. It's because of these reasons you are quarreling each other. I agree with you. However, it requires a lot of drill to understand these resources are concerned. And moreover, earlier, we couldn't find any boundary between states themselves. We couldn't find even passport and visa to visit some other countries. The entire world was actually belonging to one. That's why it is to be called as a Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. What is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam? How will you understand Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam? What are the contents in it? And how exactly this conceptual analysis shall be looked upon? So based on doctrinal or non-doctrinal or deductive or inductive qualitative or quantitative research as such. So therefore, when you are just understanding some of the aspects of the duties which are expressed under Article 19, Article 51A(c) of the Constitution, you have to understand it. And moreover, you have to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. On the other hand, you have to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. When there is a war, when there is an outbreak of war, crisis, disturbances, or violences, so under such circumstances, you have to take part in these crises and resolve the matter appropriately. So that's why this part fourth of the Constitution of India, which has outspoken even on supremacy of the country as such, that has to be looked upon. And it's your duty to promote harmony and the spirit of a common brotherhood. I must share with you, I'm not living alone, I'm living with many. And I'm actually living with many, I should know how to behave with somebody. That's one of the dual relations we have. On the other hand, one has to understand on the basis of certain factors which are highly enforceable. I mean to say that no serious criminals shall not go unpunished. They should be prosecuted accordingly. I mean to say that the criminal justice shall also be looked upon. That has to be understood. Otherwise, it's very difficult to have a look on all these, whatever we have already been emphasized under part fourth of the Constitution. On the other hand, it's your duty to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. No matter, protection and preservation of human environment is a matter of acceptability and survival of our social system. Everything is shouldered on you. That is your duty, to protect or preserve human environment most appropriately, as long as you are living as if a human being as such. And you know very well, this surrounding circumstances, which is highly emphasized on the basis of your own ecology. You know ecology. Ecology is nothing but studies with reference to organisms and their environment. It could be plant ecology, animal ecology, freshwater ecology, marine ecology, conservation ecology. All in all shall also be looked upon. And then it's your duty to disseminate law, which is actually dealing with the protection and preservation of human environment. When you look at one of the interesting cases decided by the Honorable Supreme Court, MC Mehta versus Union of India. In this particular case, Supreme Court of India has directed all the citizens of this country to, protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. So that has to be looked upon. And this is one of the responsibilities on the part of a state, to disseminate such kind of law to the citizen of this country as such. Certain awareness programs which will also be conducted through seminars, conferences, webinars, workshops, through which we can have an awareness to protect, preserve human environment. Look at Article 21 of Indian Constitution. It's a primordial right without which other rights cannot be enjoyable. Right to life, that itself is based on many factors. Whether egg is first, hen is first, that is all about your perception. Who bells the cat, it's very difficult. But you have to catch the cat, bell the cat, then only you can understand where exactly cat is moving. That's one of the perceptions that shall also be looked upon. And moreover, when you're understanding these specific legislations, you have to be careful to understand the natural environment as such, that the surrounding circumstances should be protected and to be increased. So otherwise, it's very difficult to live as human being. And moreover, Article 21 of Indian Constitution has also given some inputs to improve the quality of the environment, that natural environment as such. And moreover, if rather I would say, you shall not be an artificial. Be natural always. Look at outside, leaves are shaking. You know why leaves are shaking? Wind is blowing from other side. That's why you are looking forward. You are breathing. It's because of the air is coming from other side. So in this context, you have to be natural, highly natural. You have to live with law of nature, through which you can understand how, in what manner, you are going to respect the law of nature as such. The law of nature is a supreme. That's all about divine law. It's not actually man-made. It's a divine law. That the law of spirit shall also be looked upon. And moreover, there are some challenging issues. I agree with you. When you are just understanding environment as such. Look at developmental activities. No matter when you are actually running with these controversial issues, sustainable development is one of the best solutions to work out problems between right to development and the protection of human environment as such. So in this context, you have to understand certain principles which are expressed by Honorable Supreme Court of India as such. They could be polluter pays principle, intergenerational equity, public trust doctrine, common but differentiated responsibility, precautionary principle, common heritage of mankind, common concern of humanity, sustainable development. All these principles have come across with notions to preserve human environment as such. Thanks to higher judiciary, in order to understand the human environment in otherwise manner. Therefore, it requires a lot of efforts from or through the citizen of this country. I mean to say, the entire civil society is responsible to pay for it. So that's why understanding duties which are expressed under Article 51A G of the Constitution of India is actually required at this juncture as such. Look at acid rain, look at global warming, the climate change, look at contamination of water, look at some other situations, especially in the hill stations or forest area. All these things are actually based on few aspects. No matter, you need to have some concrete solutions to work on. However, you might have got some criticisms leveled against to the law as such. Although we have had some conflicts, we need to have some conflict resolutions. Without conflict resolutions, it would be virtually impossible to clear certain doubts in a given society as such. So that's why, therefore, certain efforts should also be made clear to improve the quality of the environment. As our surrounding circumstances should be very high, through which you can live as a very good human being as such. On the other hand, you have to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and the reform as such. Here, what is religion? When you just look into Article 25 of the Constitution of India, which talks about right to freedom of religion. What is religion? Religion is nothing but pathway or way to realize the God. It's a belief or trust over your own religious fundamentals. Or in nutshell, I can say it's a pathway to realize the God based on belief of faith. That is all about. However, in these situations, in the name of religion, people are going to be killed. That's not your concern to kill everyone in the name of religion, caste, greed, and such other thing are concerned. So that's why the Constitution of India has directed not to kill others in the name of religion as such. Look at the international scenario. You have Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, Lashkar Toiba, Taliban, ISIL, ISI. All these religious terrorists are actually targeting others. That's why I must share with you, I'm not the best followers of Chinese philosophy and Lao Tse philosophy. Lao Tse philosophy. They say that you cannot be a stronger by exploiting others. And nobody is actually superior or inferior. All are equally fit. That has to be looked upon. And you have to grow naturally how plants and trees are growing. That is all about the law of nature. That the law of nature is supreme. It's above your law. So that has to be looked upon. Otherwise, it's very difficult to share few thoughts on duties based on kriya or karma. As I said, kriya for yourself, karma for others are concerned. On the other hand, even Leo Tolstoy, who says that if you want to have happiness in the society, you have to bridge the gap between man and nature. That shall not be broken. Once it is broken, these problems are quite common all along. That's why, as long as you are learning the fundamental rights, so long, obligations shall not be forgotten. That's what I said. Where there is a right, there is a duty. Where there is a duty, there is a liability. So the liability and responsibility should also be looked upon. So therefore, you have to understand where exactly you have come from. Then only you appreciate where are you going. You have to understand truth. I respect your truth. Please respect my truth. That is the strength. This is what Swami Vivekananda has already been acknowledged in many ways by saying that our religion has taught us not only tolerance but also acceptance. So in this context, understanding the rights of others is one of the major aspects. If at all I want to enjoy my life, first of all, I should know what are your rights, through which I can understand certain controversial issues between rights and duties. That's why fundamental duties were incorporated in part 4A of the Indian Constitution by 42nd Amendment on the recommendations of a Swarna Singh committee, and the 11th duty was actually added to the 10 fundamental duties by 86th Amendment. This is all about the general views on duties which are expressed under the part 4th of the Constitution of India. The practice via which an individual has become a part of an institution like the state and collective duty of the state towards a citizen strengthens the notion of a responsible citizenry, then ultimately to achieve progress and development of the society as such. The rule of jurisprudence is that every right has corresponding duty. This is what Mahatma Gandhi ji has expressed while commenting on the performance of our duties had once said that the true source of right is duty. If we all discharge our duties, rights will not be for to seek. If living duties, unpreferred, we run after rights, they will escape us like will the ways. The more we pursue them, the further they fly. So that's why historical background of the evolution of rights and duties shall also be looked upon on the basis of Eastern jurisprudence, which is in efficacious implementation of fundamental duties, advances the importance of fundamental duties through non-justifiable. They are actually the rule of law as such. There are some controversial issues, I agree with you. Many, they say that the duties which are emphasized under the part 4th of the Constitution are not justifiable. They say that they have come through on the basis of soft measures, soft law. What is soft law and what is hard law? So soft law cannot be enforceable. I agree with you. However, in many instances, Supreme Court of India has interpreted by saying that soft law that itself is to be called as for hard law. I mean to say that in absence of hard law, soft law will play an important role. Why people are knocking the doors of judiciary? They need justice. They have not come here to understand what is a soft law and a hard law as such. So that has to be looked upon. Justice is ultimate. Access to justice is one among human rights. This is what V.R. Krishnaiyer has already been expressed. Even in otherwise manner, Justice Anand of Supreme Court, wherein he has emphasized by saying that poverty that itself is a violation of human rights. On the basis of this earlier history, you have to understand what are rights and duties. There shall be harmonious construction between part 3rd and part 4th of the Constitution of India. That's why the theory of harmonious construction has exposed at the higher order as such. You have to balance the interest between fundamental rights and duties are concerned. Otherwise, so how long you should keep some problems between yourself? So something has to be looked upon. I must share with you, your triple justice, economic, social, and political justice should be shared to the people who are left out in the society as such. And it is your duty to give voice to the voiceless. And who has to give voice to the voiceless? The state should give. It is one of the responsibilities on the part of a state should give voice to the voiceless, through which they can understand what are their rights which are guaranteed under part 3rd of the Constitution of India as such. So therefore, you have to give voice to the voiceless, voice to the voiceless. And you have to feed them, through which they can develop according to Article 21 of the Constitution of India, which talks about right to life as such. Say right to life that itself is a primordial right, without which other rights cannot be enjoyable. Right to life, which includes dignity of human being. You know very well. This is what the Supreme Court of India has been expressed in many platforms are concerned. On the other hand, while you are dealing with the fundamental duties which are expressed under the Constitution, you shall not be forgotten on some of the cases decided. Say, for example, there could be Sajjan Singh case, Shankari Prasad's case, Golaknath's case, then Vishakha versus State of Rajasthan's case, Minerva Mills case, S.R. Bommai's case. All these cases shall also be verified to understand the harmonious construction between part 3rd and part 4th of the Constitution of India. So that is all about system. One has to understand it. As long as you are learning on duties which are expressed under this constitution, so long you shall not be forgotten on what are the significance of the fundamental duties are concerned. Why they are so important, why they are put in the form of obligations to be shown. So therefore, they remind the citizens to be conscious of our duties while enjoying their rights as such. I must share with you, as long as you are enjoying rights, duties shall not be forgotten. And they serve as a warning against the anti-national or anti-social activities are concerned. When there are some activities that do, anti-social activities, something has to be looked upon. That's what I said. You have to bell the cat through which you can understand. Otherwise, it's very difficult to understand. Sometimes we may say, who bells the cat? It's very difficult. Yes, I agree with you. That is all about your notion. You have to catch the cat, bell the cat, understand it. And moreover, put out a fire before it spreads. I agree with you. You have to think about. At least in otherwise manner, you have to understand, touch me not is better than use me wise. Touch me not is better than use me wise. So all these aspects shall also be looked when you are just understanding duties which are there under the umbrella of the Constitution of India. On the other hand, these fundamental duties are helpful to serve as source of inspiration for citizens and promote a sense of discipline and the commitment towards the nation as such. As long as you are living here in this Earth planet, it's your duty to respect each other. And moreover, they help the courts in examining and determining the constitutional validity of the law as such. In nutshell, I can say you have to uphold constitutional goals, ideologies, and values. The constitutional constitutional morality shall also be looked upon, and moreover, they are enforceable by law. Parliament can provide for appropriate penalty and punishment for failure to fulfill any of them. Once you have failed, the penalty can be imposed. He could be prosecuted mercilessly. The opposition in Parliament has strongly opposed the inclusion of fundamental duties by the congressman. It was actually debatable when we had, 42nd Amendment in 1976. As this amendment came in, especially during the Indira Gandhi's period. Though we had emergency period with a view to target few people, this amendment came in. It was a controversy. That's what many critics they say that. However, without understanding duties or obligations towards nation, whatever you are going to share would become meaningless. So that's why the Saran Singh committee report has given you some inputs to understand duties are concerned. Of course, there are some criticisms leveled against to fundamental duties which are expressed. Take for an example, the list of duties is not exhaustive. It does not cover other important duties like casting vote, paying tax, family planning. I mean to say that duty to pay taxes was actually recommended by Saran Singh committee as this has not been actually success in order to understand the Saran Singh committee report as. And some of the duties are vague, ambiguous, and difficult to understand by a common man. As that has to be disseminated to a common man, the regional language as through which you can work on. And since they are non-justifiable, they have been actually described by the critics as a code of moral guidelines This is what Swaran Singh committee had suggested for penalty or punishment for non-performance of fundamental duties are concerned. You know very well, these duties are expressed under part 4th of the Constitution, which are not enforceable before the court of law. However, when it comes to the knowledge of a national anthems case, and rest of them, like MC Mehta versus Union of India, Subramnanda Sonawal versus Union of India, or AIMS Students Union versus AIMS, then Bijoy Emmanuel State of Kerala, then PM Bhargav versus University Grants Commission case, then Ashok Kumar Thakur versus Union of India, then KRK Varaprasad versus Union of India, then Dasarathi versus State of Andhra Pradesh. If you just look into all these cases, see, Supreme Court of India came out with some concrete solutions to understand duties to be imposed on citizens to respect the constitutional values or ideologies. Ideologies, values, and ideals shall also be respected. That's your duty as long as you are living here in India. So that's why these duties are expressed. Look at Article 51A of the Constitution, wherein it has expressed on to safeguard public property and observe violence. Any violence, something has to be looked upon. And you have to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individuals and collective activity. Last but not the least, who is a parent or a guardian to provide opportunity for education to his child, as the case may be, what between age of 6 and 14 years. All these are actually shouldered on you. That's your responsibility to do. As long as a family member, or karta of the family, or manager of a family assets, you have to look after your own kids. Otherwise, which will be leading to child labor. You know very well, there are many orphans here and there, and the majority of the states started actually recruiting the children for army assets, and now you have more than 3 lakh child soldiers all over the world assets, especially in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Middle East countries. We are witnessing all these child soldiers are concerned. So that's why it's your responsibility to look after all these things in a manner as such. When it comes to the knowledge, jurisprudence, and mythological aspects, duties are also expressed. Look at dharma. Dharma, it is there everywhere. Even in Bible, you can find dharma. Bhagavad Gita, you can find dharma. Ramayana, Mahabharata, Yagnavalkya Smriti, Manusmriti, Kautilya's Arthashastra. Look at Leviathan. In Leviathan, Hobbes has expressed his views. What is the duty of a king? Duty of a king is to protect the life property of a citizen. When in otherwise manner, Kautilya's Arthashastra has expressed one of the obligations on the part of a state to respect the citizen. I mean, praja. Praja means citizen of the country as such. That's why king is not above the law. All are not above the law. Law is supreme. Nobody is actually superior to others. You cannot be a stronger by exploiting others. On the other hand, if rather I would say nobody is actually above the law, even king also under the law of God. King is not above the law. King can do no wrong is a wrong perception. That's all about your obnoxious perceptions are concerned. That is why British they enjoy like anything all over the world as such. king can do no wrong is a wrong. That's why many thoughts have come through to restrict the activities of a king all in all. So that's why when there is a right, there is a duty that has to be looked upon. And this aspect has been actually looked on the basis of Swan Singh committee report. And look at aftermath of 42nd Amendment. The 42nd Amendment was controversial amendment, which tried to circumvent and supersede the landmark judgment of Keshavananda Bharati and reaffirmed by Supreme Court in Mineral Mills Limited versus Union of India. We had lots of debates in connection to incorporation of the fundamental duties into the Constitution of India as such. Especially in 1976, we had a number of debates to understand duties towards the sovereign power as such. Look at Article 51A in accord with other countries or laws. The inclusion of fundamental duties has brought our Constitution in line of Article 29 of 29 paragraph 1 of a Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it was inspired by Article 59 of 1977 Soviet Constitution and other constitutions, declarations, concepts. So that's Article 51A is in accord with other countries and laws. If we just look into UDSR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, then the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966, International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights 1966. Just have a look on Vienna Action Plans, Beijing Declarations, or else you just refer United Nations organization and its half-century enactments. You will have known how in what manner duties should be shared. Otherwise, it's very difficult to run the government or the sovereign power assets. So that's why we need to have all these aspects of concern. There are some further developments after having gone through Surgeon committee as such. Justice Verma Committee Report 1999. We have the National Commission to review the working of the Constitution, like 86th Amendment as such. The 86th Amendment could insert one more duty, as I have already been made it clear in the last slides are concerned. Importance of fundamental duties. You know very well how, in what manner duties are fundamental or significant here and there to understand the fundamental rights which are guaranteed under the Constitution of India as such. And you know very well, when it comes to the knowledge of Article 19(1) of the Constitution, wherein they have outspoken on freedoms. All freedoms are not absolute, subject to certain reasonable restrictions. Reasonable restrictions. You know where all are equal, but some of them are not equal. At least for them, law shall be made clear. And on the other hand, when there is a right to equality, fairness shall not be forgotten. That's your duty, to respect fairness. And moreover, whether right to food or right to life are supreme or not, it's a questionable. And you are a better judge what is right and what is wrong. What is good for me may not be good for you. What is right for me may not be right for you. However, there is a righteousness to judge what is right and what is wrong. So that's why there is a story of mankind. Perhaps you might have gone through wolf theory as such. Wolf is actually standing before sheep, asking or demanding, a sheep, I'm hungry. I have a right to food. I want to kill you. Then sheep replied in otherwise manner by saying that, however, you might have got right to food, I have a right to life. You cannot kill me. These are the controversial issues we have. I agree with you. However, it requires a lot of skill to understand controversial issues between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policies in which they have outspoken on the basis of a theory of a harmonious construction as. So there shall be harmonious construction between these two parts. Otherwise, it's very difficult to understand. How fundamental duties are a mean of achieving responsible citizenry. Especially in Javed versus state of Haryana, in this particular case, Apex Court, Supreme Court of India, held that the fundamental rights have to be read out with fundamental duties and the directive principles of state policy, and they cannot be read in isolation. That cannot be isolated. They have to be read out on the basis of a harmonious construction theory or theory of harmonious construction or rule of proportionality. On the basis of rule of proportionality, you can understand. When you are understanding these, there shall be religious harmony. Unless and until you should have had religious harmony between themselves, law cannot be interpreted. So that's why you have to understand religious harmony based on a theory of justice, in which John Rawls has already been made it clear in many platforms are concerned. So with you to understand John Rawls' philosophy and theory of justice, obviously one has to share few thoughts on the basis of a rule of proportionality between the fundamental rights and duties are concerned. That's why in this particular case, Supreme Court of India has come across with very good solution by saying that fundamental rights have to be read with fundamental duties. I mean to say, where there is a right, there is a duty as such. They should go hand in hand. There shall not be in any manner vertical or rectangle. They should be looked upon. They should be called as if two body, one soul, or two faces of the same coin, or they should step forward. Otherwise, how can you understand certain obligations which are shouldered on? Especially in Minerva Mills versus Union of India, Supreme Court came across with some of the observations to understand the harmonious construction theory between part 3rd and part 4th of the Constitution of India as such. So additional duties shall also be expressed in this the part. However, of course, these are the criticisms leveled against to the part 4th of the Constitution of India. One has to understand. Look at duty to vote. It's our fundamental right to vote. One of the principal recommendations of J.S. Verma Committee was a duty to vote at elections, actively participate in the democratic process of government. To pay tax should be included in Article 51A of the Constitution. We will see the matter in due course, how best the Parliament will look into the matter on the basis of a duty to vote compulsory. And moreover, duty to pay tax, especially Jackson and Reid in Miller's Bros state of Maryland have taken note of the duty of a citizen to pay tax to the government as duty to help accident victims, and the law of torts shall also be included in due course, not now. However, these are the criticisms leveled against to these. In due course, you can insert into the system as such. What are the duties of state? As long as a state has become a sovereign, sovereign is not absolute, subject to certain limitation. It is one of the responsibilities on the part of a state to render justice to a common man. So that's why accountability and responsibility of the state towards its citizen is one of the major aspects. And state truly eradicating poverty. How, in what manner you are going to eradicate poverty? Or else you can, or how, in what manner state can reduce religious intolerance by spreading message of the secularism message. These are the highly debatable issues. It requires a lot of drill to understand what is religion, what is a secularism, and how in what manner you are going to understand the accountability and the responsibility as such. Everything is actually depending on the just society. The just society should understand how in what manner the people should be respected in a given situation as such. If you just look into the India's perspectives, there are so many issues and challenges. They are highly unresolved and unexpected. Look at internal displacement, refugees, and violation of human rights of a human being. They are all highly expressive, although we have had constitution. Although we have had a constitution, violations are actually being committed. If you just look into the north side, mass killing is quite common. Mass expulsion is also quite common. Sexual harassment at working places are also quite common. How in what manner you are going to overcome? So that's why the government should take certain steps to overcome. Otherwise, it's very difficult to balance the interest between individuals and the state as such. With a view to balance the interest between individuals and state, something has to be looked upon. I must share with you at the end of this, our constitution is a suprema lex and a lex specialis. First of all, you have to respect the constitution. Otherwise, it's very difficult. And moreover, if rather I would say, constitution is not at all, a story or a novel or a drama which talks about in otherwise manner. Constitution which talks about economic, social, cultural, and the political justice. So that is to be looked upon. It could be distributive justice or corrective of justice. This is what Greek, Roman, and modern philosophies have outspoken on the concept of justice as such, that the justice should be shared to the people who are left out in the society, that the triple justice shall also be looked upon. If you have got some questions, so I'm happy to share with you. Over to you. Do you have some questions? ಏನಾದರೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳು ಇದಾವ?
No, sir. No questions.
Okay.
Clarification, sir.
Yeah.
So, corruption is very, very much in our country.
Yes, sir.
So, ರಾಜರೇ ಭಕ್ಷಕರಾದಾಗ
ಸರ್
ಪ್ರಜೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕಾಪಾಡೋರು ಯಾರು? ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಮೇಕರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಪೊಲಿಟಿಷಿಯನ್ಸ್.
ಹೌದು.
Then who has to bring the halt to the corruption, which is very rampant in our country?
ಹೌದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮಗೆ ಆಂಟಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ, ಲೋಕಾಯುಕ್ತ ಇದೆ, ಲೋಕಪಾಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ACB ಅವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ,
ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದಾವೆ. ಬಟ್ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲೋಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಆವಿನಂತೆ ಇದಾವೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ನಮಗೆ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ಲೀಗಲ್ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ? ಆಸ್ ಎ ಕಾಮನ್
all boards and all policies are there, but all have become.
ಸರ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಅಸ್ತ್ರ ಇದೆ, ಅದೇ ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬೈಬಲ್ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಭಗವದ್ಗೀತಾ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಕುರಾನ್ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಓದ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಈ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ಒಂಥರ ಕಾದಂಬರಿ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ಕವನ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ನಾಟಕ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ, ಆರ್ಥಿಕ, ರಾಜಕೀಯ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯನ್ನ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ.
I do respect the constitution, sir.
ಸರಿ ಸರ್.
But what remedy the constitution can do?
ಸರ್, ನನ್ನ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ನಾನು ಹೇಳದಂದ್ರೆ, ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಾನೂನುಗಳಿದಾವೆ, ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಮತ್ತು ಅಂತಾರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಕಾನೂನು ಇದಾವೆ. ಆಂಟಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಸುಮಾರು ಇದಾವೆ. ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ವಿಜಿಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಇದೆ, ನಮಗೆ CBI, CID ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, CODಗಳು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ನಿಲ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಾರಣಗಳಿವೆ. ನನ್ನ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಿಂದ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಯಾವತ್ತು ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲಿಂದ ಗ್ರೀಡಿ ಅವನು, ಹಣ ಗಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಆಸೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ನೋ ಮಾರಲ್ ರೈಟ್ ಟು ಟಾಕ್ ಆನ್ ಆಂಟಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ನನ್ನ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಸೆಟ್, ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಧೋರಣೆಗಳಿದಾವಲ್ಲ, ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಇಟ್ಟು ನಾವು ಭ್ರಷ್ಟಾಚಾರಕ್ಕೆ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಇದಾವೆ. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಸಂವಿಧಾನದಲ್ಲೇ, ಈಗ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಡೆಗೂ ನಾವು ಕಾನೂನುಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದಿದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ ಆಂಟಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ಹೈಕೋರ್ಟ್ ನಿದರ್ಶನಗಳು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಇದಾವೆ, ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಕೂಡ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಈಗ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ಗಳು, ಸೆಮಿನಾರ್ಗಳು, ವರ್ಕ್ಶಾಪ್ಸ್ಗಳು, ಸಿಂಪೋಸಿಯಮ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅದ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಥಿತಿಗಳು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಮೈಂಡ್ ಸೆಟ್ಗಳು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದು ಒಂದು ಇದಿದೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇತ್ತೀಚಿನ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೇಳಿದ ಒಂದು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಾನೂನುಗಳಿದಾವೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಿಲ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ನಾವು ಒಂದ್ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಬರೀ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದನಿಗೆ ಜೈಲಿಗೆ ಹಾಕದೇ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು ನಮ್ಗೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ನಾನೊಬ್ಬ ಟೀಚರ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ವೈ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಅಂತ. ನಾವು ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಆಗ್ಬೋದಾ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಾನೂನುಗಳಿದಾವೆ, ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದಾವೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಬರೇ ಕಾರು ಬಂಗ್ಲೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ, ನಿಮಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ, ಸಂಬಳ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದೀವಿ, ಎಂತ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾವೆ, ಯಾವುದು ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಲೋಕಾಯುಕ್ತ, ಲೋಕ್ಪಾಲ್, ACB ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ವಿಜಿಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್, ಓಂಬಡ್ಸ್ಮನ್, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಯಾಕೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ, ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಸಿವಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸಿವಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಡೂ ಈಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಸಿವಿಲೈಸೇಷನ್, ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಫಾರ್ ಈಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಕಲ್ಚರ್. ಒನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕೂ ನಾವು ಬಡತನ ತರಕ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಅವಾಗ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಈಗ ಬಡತನ ಎಲ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ವೆನ್ ಶಬರಿ ಮೆಟ್ ರಾಮ, ಸಿ ಕುಡಂಟ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ ನಾರ್ತ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಆರ್ ಸೌತ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಫುಡ್. ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಹಣ್ಣುಗಳನ್ನ ಕಿತ್ತು ಕೊಟ್ಟು ವರ್ಷಿಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ. ಈಗ ಮಹಾಭಾರತದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಡತನದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬಡತನ ಇದೆ. ಅದೇ ಒಂದು ಅಸ್ತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬಡತನದಿಂದನೇ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸುಳ್ಳು. ಯಾಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಯಾವತ್ತು ಗ್ರೀಡಿ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾನ, ಇನ್ನೂ ಗಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ನೂ ಮನೆ ಕಟ್ಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ನೂ ಬಂಗ್ಲೆ ಕಟ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಸ್ಥಿತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದವನಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಆಂಟಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಲಾಸ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ACB ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾನ್ಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಸೆಮಿನಾರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ. ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ದೃಷ್ಟಿ ಏನಿದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ವೈ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅ ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಅಂತ. ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬದಲಾವಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಈ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಒಬ್ಬ ಲಾಯರ್ ಆಗಿ, ಇನ್ನು ಕಾನೂನನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದೇನಂದ್ರೆ, ಐ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಟ್ರೂತ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರೆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮೈ ಟ್ರೂತ್, ಅಂಡ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ವೇರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಕಮ್ ಫ್ರಮ್, ದೆನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಯು ಅಪ್ರಿಸಿಯೇಟ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್, ವೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಯು ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತ್ ಒನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್. ಈಗ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ವಿವೇಕಾನಂದ ಅವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವರ್ ರಿಲಿಜನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟಾಟ್ ಅಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಟಾಲರೆನ್ಸ್ ಬಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್. ಈಗ ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದೆ, ನಾಗರಿಕತೆ ಇದೆ, ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಬದುಕ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಸಾವಿರಾರು ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ ಮನುಷ್ಯತ್ವ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಜೀವನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಯಾವತ್ತು ಕಂಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವತ್ತು ಈ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತೈತಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ಇಂದ ಬಂದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಹಣವನ್ನ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಗೆ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ವಿನಿಯೋಗ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳು ಇದಾವೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಿದ್ ಮಾತ್ರಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಕಾನೂನು ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ specific legislations which are dealing with ಆಂಟಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಸಚ್. ಈ ಭ್ರಷ್ಟಾಚಾರವನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಕಾನೂನುಗಳಿದಾವೆ, ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಸೆಟಪ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ದೃಷ್ಟಿ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಟೀಚರ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಚೇಂಜ್, ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬದಲಾವಣೆ ಆಗೋಣ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಸಿವಿಲ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಸಿವಿಲ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ ಈಸ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಲ್ ಟು ಪೇ ಫಾರ್ ಇಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಟು ದ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಆಸ್ ಸಚ್. ಇವತ್ತು ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಬದುಕಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದು ಅಧಿಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟು ಹೋಗುವಂತ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಒಂದು